Hey, what's up? Good evening, everybody. How you doing? This is Mikey Wine here, aka Gundam Works, and this is part 4 of the M6. I keep saying it's not the Abrams. It's a M61A5 main battle tank Gundam main battle tank and 135th scale UC hard graph kit, and we're continuing tonight with fiber optics installs. So last week we did some blooming. We showed that how to bloom the ends of the fiber optic and the strands. And then tonight we're going to be heating them up. I'm going to use my heat gun to uh, be able to shape them the way I want and collect them in one place so we can put a single LED and light them all up. I'll show that whole process. What is up? Julius, Giovanni's in. Julius is in. How you doing, Julius? Giovanni, good to see you too as well. And Mr. Hasaki Art. It's been a minute since you've been here. I appreciate you coming in. Thanks for joining. So I've got kind of a mess of parts here. Let's go down to good evening, yo, yo, yo. So I'm going to take a look at the down look here on the bench. And so, yeah, you can see I've got the bathtub here. I also laid down the first coat of paint on this, as well as the top piece and the fenders. I did that so I could install these fibers and then start gluing them in place. So I have 2 in each side, 2 for each headlamp assembly, and they go into the underbody here. They are glued using this canopy glue. And let's see who else joined in. I'm stuck at work for the next 4 hours. Oh, bummer. What's going on here? I just got my phone buzzing. No worries there. How you been, brother? I've been good. How about you? It's good to see you. It's been a while, I think. So, hope all is well on your side of the planet, wherever you may be. Anyway, so I've got a few things set up here. I've got my wire out. I've got a battery holder, my LED, and some shrink tubing. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to all that. But first, we need to shape these fibers. So, as you can see, let me just go down a little closer here. Yes, indeed. Talking to you live from my semi truck. Oh, nice. So you're on the road too, huh? Nice. All right, let me go down to the close-up here so you can see a little bit closer view of the main body here. I'm going to set these fenders aside. We'll need those later. So right now we've got 2 pieces of fiber each side for the headlights, and those are bloomed. They come out through the top here and then go into the underbody, which will be inside, basically this cavity. Fill up this area here somewhere, and then I'll run the battery over here where I can access it through the turret opening. South Boston, Virginia right now. Wow. Now at a pilot. Oh, a pilot, that's like a fueling station, isn't it? If I remember correctly, a pilot's like one of those truck stops or something like that. Very cool. Well, be safe. Don't be trying to drive and watch the live stream at the same time. That could be dangerous. So underneath here, I flip this over. You see these 2 strands. I've got them collected into this piece of tubing. And I'm going to actually use a smaller piece of this later on for the LED. The LED will go, I almost dropped it. The LED, this isn't going to be this long, but I will cut this tube shorter. But the LED fits right in the end of the tube here. Here, parked for the night. Oh, okay, cool. So then you can hang out and chat the whole night then. That's good. Julius says, work, I listened to the Built Sideways podcast episode where you were a guest. Very nice. Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun. It's kind of cool. It's a little bit interesting because you don't see there's no video. I mean, we actually had video ourselves during the broadcast, so we can take visual cues and things like that from each other while we're talking. But it's just basically sitting in a room, bringing up whatever, subject, whatever we decide to talk about. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I miss those guys. We used to do a lot of build gathering nights almost once a week for a lot of years until COVID, and then everything kind of just everyone went in separate ways. So getting back to this, so I've got these held together here, and I'm actually going to use this tube to kind of help move these fibers where I want them to go. Use it as a tool to hold on to them and shape them in the way. So I'm going to try to bring them up somewhere in the front here. I guess you have 2 truck drivers in your audience. Yeah, I know, right? That's a first, right? 2 drivers on the road. So let's get, I'm going to make some noise here. I've also got the soldering gun at the ready, because I will, if we can get to it, I'm going to do some soldering and get the LED wired up, and then hopefully be able to kind of test that system when everything's done. So I'm going to make some noise here. I got the heat gun. Now this is a Wagner paint stripping heat gun. It gets really hot. You have to be careful. Now these fibers are 2 millimeters, so they're going to take a little bit more heat than some of the smaller stuff. But basically what I want to do is just get these to heat up, and you'll see them start to move when they're getting soft, and then you can actually start shaping them. And I've got a bracket that goes in here for the pilot, this opening in the top of the tank. So I need to kind of avoid that area. There's a piece that actually bridges these 2 holes. So as I start the heat here, Hasaki says, "Hey Giovanni, you're driver 2. Yeah, drivers talking to each other. Go for it." So I'm just going to do some heat here for a second until we can get these to start moving. And I said, once they start heating up, you'll see them start to bend and take shape just on their own. I've also got to be careful not to get the plastic too hot too. So I just want to keep enough distance here where I can keep these fibers out. And if it doesn't work doing all 4 at once, I'm going to maybe do 2 at a time. Okay, now they're starting to move. I can see them. See, now they're holding a shape. So I'm going to start pulling this forward here. I can do this with one hand. You got to be careful not to warp the plastic. There we go. Okay. You see they're starting to take shape. These are a little bit harder, or they take a little bit more heat to get them to move because they're a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to pull these forward, and then let's see. Hasaki says, in a day cab, good man, be safe. Oh yeah, we're doing local work. So now that I've got that tube holding them together, I can start kind of pulling these forward. There we go. All right, now I can let those cool a little bit, and then hit them again. Just got to keep adding heat until they hold the shape that I need them to. Ooh, man, that's hot. I've got my hand there. All right, so make sure my lights are still where they need to be, because these bulbs have to be back far enough in. I also need my glue to dry, so I did this a little bit earlier today. I'm just going to hit these with some heat to try to help get that glue to finish drying, because these have to be tucked back as far back into that bulb wall that it's got to be pushed back, because there's a lens that goes on top of that. So if the fiber starts to move forward, that's why I just noticed, like, this one was sticking out a little bit. Just went back and pushed it back down into that bowl. Was a finance manager for a local dealer in Glendale. Let's see, what is it says? I bet this is going to be awesome with all the LED and fiber. Well, thanks, bud. It's not going to be. There's only one LED. I'm just doing the headlights, so it's not terribly elaborate. But yeah, it was kind of a giveaway. What am I trying to say? It was I had to do it. It's fairly simple for this, especially with the scale to do this. So it was a given that I was going to try to do some fiber optic work. So I'm just trying to pull these forward and get them to stay in this position, but I've got to heat them up long enough without damaging the plastic. It's really hot. There we go. You can see the fibers start to actually move on their own when the heat is getting to them, and then they'll start to take shape. So I can shove this down a little bit further. Checking my bulbs again, making sure. When I say bulbs, I'm talking about the bloomed ends. I want to make sure they're fully recessed into those holes. And then once I get the shape here, then I can trim these down for the rest of the installation part with the LED. I trim them down shorter than, because they're way too long right now, and I cut them long on purpose. Got any comments? I'm missing stuff here. Oh my gosh, everybody's talking. I guess not. I didn't miss anything. I don't think I did. I'm just trying to catch up here because I was looking down, make sure I didn't miss anything. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. We cook plastic. Yeah. Angel's in the house. How you doing, Angel? We cook plastic. Yeah, we're cooking plastic today. Just want to make sure I'm not getting it too terribly hot. So I got to heat up these fibers, but at the same time, not get the plastic too hot. So I'm going to get it a little bit more here. There we go. Wow, that's hot. Yeah, it is very, very hot, but it speeds up the process quite a bit. Okay, now you can see what we've got here. So now that these are basically going to hold their shape, I can stop with the heat. When I take this tube off, they're going to probably spread apart, but as long as I can keep them tucked forward here ahead of this these two junction points here, because like I said, there's a bracket that goes on here, and that's so when the pilot is in here, when his head's sticking out, there's a support to glue him down on. So I'm going to pull this tube off real quick. You see how everything kind of just wants to separate. But once I put the tube back on, we'll be good to go. I might actually hit these with a little bit more heat one more time here, just to get this one side to come forward. So let me put these back in the tube real quick. All right, got all four in there. All right, I'm going to do this one side again real quick here. Just this one side needs a little more. I want these to sit down right there. There it goes. Like I said, you can actually see them start to move. And that's when they hold. Okay, now they should stay right where they're at. Let me make sure. Oh, my bulb, this one came forward again. Just want to push that back, make sure that it stays back. Yeah, these are still doing good here on the top. You can see where the fibers go into the side. All right, I'll hang this heater back up. Now let's take this tube off. All right, so I'm going to cut this back. I'm going to cut these back. I don't need Obviously, you got to be careful not to cut too much off, but I'm thinking, because I also got to make them the same length. I want them to be a nice clean cut, and I want them to be the same length. So I think what I'll do, you can always take off a little more. Just got to be careful not to take off too much, but I want to get them the same length. Now that they're holding their position here, does the monoplastic hold up better than the fiber? In this case, yeah. I mean, the thinner stuff, if I was to sit there and hold it there, I'm sure like these side pieces would start to warp. That's a good question, Angel. Let me put that one on screen. So hair dry would be more forgiving, probably, but it would take longer. Especially with the thicker fibers. These are 2 millimeters, so it's about the biggest that I have, and certainly they take quite a bit of heat before they start to move. But Angel's asking, does the monoplastic hold up? It does. If I that's why I was being careful with it, because if I do overdo it, it will warp the actual plastic model. But that's why I was coming in with the heat, kind of going in and out with the heat gun, just to kind of keep everything, keep the heat focused in, on the fiber optics. So I think these are just going to sit like this. So if I use this resting point as my judging my length here, I'm going to cut these off. Pieces are going to go flying here. Keep my hand on them so they don't fly off. All right, now I've got them all essentially the same length. Just one a little bit shorter, so I'm going to take a tiny bit more off here. Let's see. I'm going to use my God hands. I know I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to do one at a time, very carefully. This will make sure I got a nice clean cut. So I'm going to go here, then here. Give me 1 second. I'll get back to the chat here in a second. Okay. Dump those out. No need for extra fibers or extra pieces. Okay, so now with this, I'm going to shove this in to the tube again, but I need to cut this down and allow just a little bit of room for the LED on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this to kind of get an idea of how far this is going to go. Give me a sec here while I get these all gathered up again. Okay. They just barely fit in this tube, so they have to be bundled into like a square of 4. Okay, so judging by, I may actually have to cut them further back. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to, because this piece on the front here where this mounts, I got to have space here. So I'm going to actually probably take about another 1/2 inch off of these at the most. Maybe I'll start with a 1/4 inch and then we'll go from there. So, or a little over a 1/4. You can hear those pieces flying around the room, bouncing off the wall in front of me. All right, there we go. Now let's see how that looks. So when I cut that tube back, I want to make sure, I want to get the bulb as close as I can to these fibers. So I want to be able to shove this tube on there and have a long enough piece, just long enough so I can insert the bulb. Okay, I got to get them bundled up here again. This is the hard part, because you take it off and then they've got to be kind of bundled like a square. Handwritten. Oh, Handwritten's in. That's right. George is in. How you doing, George? Nick is in. How you doing, Nick? Sorry, I had my head down here. I hope everybody understands if I miss you. All All right, so once I get these, I'm going to just look at where I've got to cut this. So I'm going to cut this at about, maybe about 1 inch or so. I could use a tube cutter, but I'm just, I don't need to be too precise with this. I'm just going to cut this off about here. I'm just going to roll it. There we go. Watching Mike live from his semi truck in Virginia. Exhausted but okay, huh? Why are you exhausted? You tired, old man? I'm exhausted too, actually. I've had kind of a crap week at work. All right. These are not cooperating. I've got to get these back into this tube here. But first, I think what I'm going to do is do some LED work. Okay, so what I've got to do is I want to mount this LED in the end of this tube, which I can actually cut straighter than it is now. I got kind of a off cut there. Okay, so I'm going to mount this LED in the end. Use some gaffer tape to secure it, and then I'll bend the ends back once and then back again the other direction. Then I'll have basically my illumination unit, and then I can full sleeper with 53-foot rig OTR. Wow, damn. You resemble that remark? Yeah, I know. The other day you were doing your YouTube test. We know you're a stud. Don't worry about it. We know you're a stud. So if I go on with these fibers and I push this tube down, I should be able to get them close enough to the LED. I want them as close as possible so I gather as much light. I might need to take out just a little bit more of this, which I think I'm going to do just right now. Just kind of about another 1/8 of an inch. All right, so that should be enough. Okay, so here's a little thing that I figured out. Got some gaffer tape here. This is just black gaffer tape. I'm going to take off a strip, just like that. And we'll take this and we'll go around this LED. I'm going to just insert that in the tube. I'll go around and I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, so that's in. Now I can take these leads and come back, bend them back on the side here. This is my positive and this is my negative. I can still see the difference in the length. Then I'll take another piece of tape. I'm going to go around this, and that will fully secure my leads. And then I can tape, I'll actually cover up the entire tube so there won't be any bleed through, light bleeding through or anything. Because my LED is going to point straight through. So I should be able to insert those fibers right in there. Sounds like you might have a YouTube channel there with Gunpla on the road. Yeah, sounds like it, huh? All right, just to double check, make sure I've got this right. I want to check my... Yeah, okay, so I do have my leads right. This is positive and negative, the shorter one. Still negative. Now, I'll create a little loop here for my wires, because I just need basically to go from here to here. I want the battery underneath here is where the LED is going to be. I want the battery to be accessed through the turret opening. So I'll just need some LED, some wires to come down the side here. You could probably even glue them, and then just have the battery hanging out right about there. So first things first, let me crank up the soldering iron here. Get it starting to heat up while I make my little loops. And this is just a hook. It's just a simple thing to kind of make it easier for me to attach the wires to it. So I just take the ends and the little hook, and then when I get my 32 gauge wire, I'll just wrap it around that, and then I'll have a good point to solder on there. It'll really hold it in place. All right, so 32 gauge. I got to get some more of this. I'm starting to get low, but I'm just going to cut off a decent amount, so I got enough to run up to a battery. And we'll match that with the negative wire. Same length. Saki says, the problem, the time is not consistent. I will be doing my 34-hour reset tomorrow. Good God. I'll have the day to work on somewhat SDMG sniper and play some video games. All right, well, the life of being a trucker on the road, I guess. Cool deal. I got a couple of friends in California that drive trucks. One guy was a tow truck driver. Bailed me out of a situation one time when I was trying to ride my motorcycle in the rain. That wasn't fun. All right, so I got 2 lengths of wire here, red and black. Red's for my positive lead. Obviously black is my ground side. So now I'm just going to twist up this end that I've already trimmed. I've got some really tiny wire strippers here. That braided 32, yes, it is 6-strand 32 gauge. Angel asked, is it braided 32? It's a 6-strand 32 gauge, and used it for a long time. These were full spools. I mean, all the way out to here at one point, and I've used them for years now, a lot of years. So cut this back just so I can get ready to do some soldering here. All right, yeah, I got these little tiny wire strippers. It took me a while to find some that were small enough to even grab 32 gauge. Took a while. All right, so it's going to take a little longer for the soldering iron to heat up here. Got my roll of solder. Got my battery holder. All that stuff can go in later. I just want to get the LED wired up, and then I'll worry about wiring in the battery holder after I get this done. So I think, yeah, this is my positive. I got to make sure I got this right. Shit, did I get it backwards? No, I shouldn't have. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to do the positive lead first. Yeah, it is hard to find. It's not bad once you get used to it, you know, the lifestyle. Yeah, that's true. I guess if that's your job, you do get used to it, for sure. As far as like being a trucker. All right, so I'm going to take my wire here and just until I get ready, until the soldering iron's ready. I'm just going to place this on my little hook, and then I will go and just take my pliers and kind of crimp it. All that's going to do is just low voltage stuff. I'm not too worried about it. It's just going to keep that wire in a good enough place long enough for me to solder it. So what I'll do is spin this around so I've got the lead facing me, and it won't be hard to. Let me see where my solder is at. Yeah, it sounds like it's getting there, almost ready. Let me check it with some solder, see where the temp is. Yep. Looks like we're good to go. All right, so what I will do is I have some helping hands here. Let me grab those. Yeah, maybe. Let me just grab those real quick. All right. This way I can hold this in place up in the air while I'm soldering here. So I'm going to just grab a hold of that. All right, there we go. Now everybody can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to solder this real quick. This positive lead won't take much. There we go. Piece of cake. Okay. I'm going to go and put some shrink tubing on that later once I do the negative side. So now I'm going to take my negative lead, do the same thing. So I'm going to create a little hook. Place this on here. And then I will pinch those wires. Fancy. Oops, not pinch the wire. I mean pinch the lead on the LED just to kind of close it around that wire. Okay, now I can do the same with this. I'm going to use this to kind of hold my LED in place, and then I'll take my negative wire, rotate it there just to get it cooperate. This wire, of course, the spool is all curled around in a circle, so it's making it hard to get these. Okay. All right, there we go. Now, just a little bit of solder. We'll be done with that side as well. So this is going to be a little bit. Sorry, I'm kind of in front of the camera, I know, but there we go. Okay. So now we've got both leads on there. Soldered on there nicely. Now I'm going to take a tiny piece of shrink tubing here. Oops, almost lost the spring of my pliers here. Don't need much, just a short piece. About a little over 1/2 inch. And this is some pretty small shrink tubing. And I'm just running this down so I can kind of make this a little bit stronger so I don't have a weak point there, right where that wire is pretty thin. So by doing the shrink tubing, that'll help stabilize that solder joint. Let's get this to come down over the wire here. There we go. Now we can take my handy dandy lighter. Okay. One side done, we'll do the other side here. I can just get these wires to stop trying to climb all over each other. There we go. Shove that down there, and then we'll do the same. All right. Now, for the moment of truth, I'm going to have to test this. So I'm going to trim off a little bit here on my wire. Each positive and negative, and then make sure I got a good battery test. Okay, so red for positive, black for negative. All right, there we go. Got a good LED. Okay, so now that we know this is good, now I've got to take this and put all these fibers in, and then I'm going to actually glue those with some of that canopy glue. I'm actually going to try to get these wires out of the way. I'm going to straighten out this tube just to trim a little bit off edge. Trying to get a straight shot. There we go. Okay. Sometimes cutting a tube is hard to do because it's hard to get it perfectly straight. It always ends up tapering to one side. Okay. So for the time being, I'm going to turn off the soldering iron. I don't need that to stay on. I'll kind of clear out some room here. So what I'm going to do now is, hopefully, without fighting, you know what? Actually, first I'm going to take some more of that gaffer tape. Now that I've got these soldered, I'm just going to take another strip of this gaffer tape and secure my wires even better to the side of the LED. Now, and then I'll go over it one more time to cover up the end because I don't want any bleed through. I don't want to be able to look through, you know, the turret or anywhere and see any bleed through. I want the light just to be on the headlights only. Okay, so now that's a pretty secure LED unit. So LED is facing this way. I pulled the leads back, soldered them on. Everything's taped down, and it's kind of speeds up the process because you don't have to glue anything, and there's not a whole lot to do there. So now I've got to feed these fibers into the end of this tube. This was the part I was struggling with because they've got to be stacked kind of like a square, because it's only configuration that really fits all four of these wire or strands all at once. See, I can get 3 in easily, but then the fourth one, I got to keep them all the same length too. So that's part of the challenge here. Now, a lot of times I've done this and I've had more space. You know, the fibers are smaller. I've had more kind of free play in the tube. This is like a 4mm tube, and so the strands they fit very, very tightly. All right, give me one sec here as I fight with this. George, where's my Zeta? You see the light? You see the light. I'm trying to get them all the same length. I mean, once I get them in there, it doesn't, you know, they don't have to be the same length, but it will help quite a bit if they are going in. So now that I've got 3 in, I'm just going to try to work in this last one here on the side. There we go. I think I got it. Nope, popped out. Had it for a split second. All right, let's go in. Come on. There we go. Okay. Whew. That was a fight. All right, so now I can shove these all the way down as far as they will go. All right, now that we've got the LED kind of in position, I'm going to again use my heat gun to kind of shape these further. I want to get this kind of out of the way here. So when I install this, it can't be in the way of this piece here, because you see how those two pegs go into these two holes here, right here and here. Those go in here. So I've got to make sure that the LED is kind of out of the way. I mean, I guess it won't matter too much. It'll be easy to pull it out. But these are kind of, now that they've cooled, they're hardened into that position. But I want to, before I do that, I'm going to check to make sure one more time that I have a good light. Now that I've got the LED in there and the fibers in there, you should be able to see exactly what the headlights are going to look like. So let's pull this aside here and just hook up the battery one more time. All right, so positive. All right, there we go. And you can see how those fiber optics, if you get the right angle, they almost start to illuminate as you look down. Like when if you're looking straight down, you don't see anything. But as soon as you get an angle on them, you can see how they start to light up. But it looks like all four headlights look really strong. They're the same amount of brightness. Oh, thanks, Sandrin. I appreciate that. So we'll keep doing another test here once I'm done. But what I need to do now is, like I said, I got to heat this up and kind of move this, try to get these kind of coaxed out of the way. And then I'm going to run my wires down to the turret opening here so I can install this. This is a little CR2032 battery holder. It just kind of fits in positive. There's two positive leads and one negative. And so I'll just solder this on here, and then I really don't need a switch. I can just use the battery as a switch. When you just install it, the lights are on, take it off, lights go off. It simplifies everything. I could put a reed switch in, but there's really no need. It's not that huge a deal. So let me get these wires kind of out of the way, and then I'm going to bring the heat gun back over here and make some more noise for a second. Looking great. Thanks, George. Very cool. Thanks, Angel. What would be cool? He says, man, it's George, I'm going to bug you about that kit every time. Okay. You guys got a little fight going on. You got a kit you promised him? Okay. Let's bring out the heat gun again. Sorry for the noise, but we're going to try to hold these. I hope I'm not jacking my paint up here. Shouldn't be. Stuff's pretty durable. These are my two colors, by the way, since we're talking about that color. The main color is this Mr. Color 25, which is a dark sea gray. I went with a light gold gray, and I started to paint it. It was just too light, so I had to go back and redo it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the same color I used on a little 144 here. So should be the same. All of the non-slip panels that are on, the non-slip, the grip tape type stuff, it's going to be all masked off, and that'll be done in this darker 317, which is just a gray, kind of a medium gray. So that will kind of give the top of this tank more of a mosaic type look with all those little non-slip grip tape type panels are going to be colored differently so you can actually see them a lot easier. So I'm just going to heat this up again, just very gradually. That way I can turn this LED away from the nose, hopefully. Trying to just basically just get these hot enough to move. Man, that's hot. Wee-wee. How's that? I'm trying to get my fingertips, but it's not easy. Okay, there we go. Now it's starting to starting to bend a little bit. I can see them moving, and I can feel it too, because they kind of start to when they start to move, they get a little softer, and it makes it easier. So now I'm going to hold that there. I'm going to take these wires again, move them out of the way, and one more time just to kind of hold this position. All right. Now let them cool. Now my LED is over here on the side, out of the way. That will be right underneath here. There's nothing in the way. There's not going to be any, like over here, it'll be on the side. There's nothing in the way. There's nothing to worry about there. So now, and I've learned the hard way too, I want to make sure every time I do something, especially when dealing with heat and stuff, I want to make sure I don't have any problems with my wiring. So again, I'm going to just hook up this battery just to kind of, oh gosh, if I can stop dropping the damn thing. Just to make sure my LED still lights. Because if it doesn't, then I'm in trouble. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're good. We got headlights. All right, so take the heat gun, hang it back up over here. Now, what I'd like to do is I'll take some of that. I could even use hot glue. I guess would be probably even easier. And I'm just going to run my wires down the side here, out of the way, because I don't want anything to be able to see anything through the pilot seat here. But then I've got this extra here just to kind of hang out by the turret opening, and that's where I'll put my battery. So when this thing is together, I can just take the turret off, reach down. You know, the battery will be kind of laying on the bottom. Just reach in, grab it, put my battery in, drop it back in, and be good to go. So I think I've got my hot glue gun. I'm bringing out all the tools today. I even have some glue in it, all ready to go. I just got to plug it in. Yeah, there we go. Since I'm just doing the wiring, the glue gun, this little guy, just a little tiny hobby glue gun, another little Home Depot purchase. So we're just going to plug this in real quick, and then I'll just secure those wires along the edge really simply with the hot glue. I think I'm going to unplug my soldering gun just for a second. So I think one of the outlets on this doesn't quite work that well. Okay. So give this a second to heat up. Hot hat is so... Oh, that is so cool. Thanks, bud. I was trying to figure out what you're saying. What's up, Julius? You guys are talking amongst yourselves. No worries there. Let's see. Old School says, George says, Mike, what will the tank sit on? Probably a simple base. I'm doing this low visibility paint scheme versus the desert scheme since I already did the Abrams in that. So I'm not sure. I think I'll make it look either like asphalt or concrete, or maybe if it is dirt, you know, something, because I'm going to weather this. So, but I'm going more on the lines of like a city type, urban, you know, battalion, some kind of urban tank. So it's not going to be so crusty, dirty as far as like desert and that kind of thing. But it will be some rust. There will be some streaking effects and things like that. So, but I'm thinking it'll be more weathered in that, like an urban environment versus something that would be like out in the desert, like I did with the Abrams. The Abrams I made very dusty, dirty, you know, a lot of dirt accumulation, things like that. I will do some of that on this because obviously, you know, any kind of a wartime situation, there's a lot of dirt flying around, a lot of particulate type stuff that is going to settle on areas. So, but okay, my hot glue gun. I just did a little test, little wet fingertip test. I'm gonna have infantry. Let's see. Handra is saying. Let's see. I got to switch over here. Put this one on screen. You're gonna make infantry with it, or perhaps Gundam hand or head. Ooh, that's a good. Oh, that's interesting. I do have. Gosh, I didn't even think about that. But I do have the Rambarel set, which should be the same scale. Gundarium doesn't rust. I don't care, Mr. Old School. It's not canon. As if you cared about canon. You're here for me. Yeah, I do have the Rambarel set, which has that Zaku head. I wonder if I could do something with that. That's going to turn this simpler build into something a little more elaborate. But hey, that's what we do, right? So let me see if I can get some glue extruded here. This thing takes a little bit to heat up, but there's no switch for it. It's just plug it in, and there we go. Okay, now I've got some glue. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue these wires down to the back side of this. If I can get it to detach. Something about hot glue. It leaves like little stringies. But it's pretty quick once it cures. And now I'm just going to do one or two more here along the side just to kind of keep these. Ah, come on. I'm trying to pull the wires out and I'm pulling my glue up. All right. I got trapped under the. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go down the side here. Another one right about here. Yeah, now that it's fully heated up, it's real simple, real quick. Aren't the Exceed Zaku's Gundam and Dom heads 135? Probably. I think they're pretty close. I have a ton of those. What's funny about the box art, it actually shows a Zaku in the back, like working with the tanks. But I thought these were Fetty tanks, But why would there be a Zaku in the background fighting alongside Fetty tanks? I don't know. All right, so the last little bit is going to be right on the side here, and then I'll let my wires kind of dangle. That should do it. So I'm going to do one more right under the turret here. There we go. I'll unplug the glue gun because if I don't, it's just going to keep melting the glue. I want it to stop right away, so take that off, take that off, there we go. All right, let me move this hot glue gun out of the way just a little cool. Oh, crap. My wire's pulled away. That should work well. Still hot, so I was able to stick it back over there. All right, last but not least, I want to make sure the turret, once that sticks, I'll make sure those aren't going to go anywhere. I want to make sure the turret will spin freely without getting in the way of that. So I'm just going to take the bottom half off, the part that actually is into this. Yep, that's good. I want to make sure that rotating this wasn't going to interfere with where I just glued my wires down. So now this will be kind of hanging out here in the turret opening. So when I take this off, all I got to do is just grab my battery, put my battery in, tuck it back down in there, and that's it. Pretty simple plan. So I've got a couple more bits of soldering to do here. So I'm going to plug back in the soldering iron so I can power it back up and put on the battery holder. All right, so turn this back on, get it warming back up for a moment. In the meantime, Let's see. Tanks and Zaku's operated together in Requiem of Vengeance. That is true, but they were the Zaku's. The tanks were not these main battle tanks. They were Zeke tanks, weren't they? They were different. I thought the 2-barrel main battle tanks were Fetty tanks, if I'm not mistaken. But again, I know nothing about the Gundam lore, so I mean, I do a little bit, but I don't pretend to know everything. So if I'm way wrong, that's okay. Just go ahead and correct me on that. So, all right. So I trimmed off a wire here. So all I've got to do is just kind of twist my wires. That movie was fantastic. Yeah, some people didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I mean, I went in not expecting a whole hell of a lot. There's a lot of people that made some very valid points. You know, like, why did they always look like they were wet? You know, the skin was always, their skin was like they're constantly sweaty. Just the way the animation was done. But I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was for its value what it was. I went in not expecting a whole lot, and so it was entertaining. Actually, I do have the Exceed Zeta head and the dashboard on the semi. Nice. That movie was fantastic. It's a pretty fun series for sure. Yeah, it was. Let's see. What is George saying here? I could be wrong, Mike, but I don't think so. We'll watch the series again to check it out. I know they had tanks, but they were single barrel tanks and they were different. They weren't the Federation main battle tanks with the twin barrels. Yeah, character execution was pretty weak. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It was, like I said, I went in without expecting a whole hell of a lot, and it was entertaining. I went in just for the entertainment value of it, just to see something on screen that was, you know, a little bit different than the regular animation. All right, so now that my soldering iron is heating up here, I'm going to keep, whoops, check it here in a second. The tanks were Xeon. Which tanks, though? No, because they were shooting at the Zaku's. So it depends on which ones you're talking about. If you're talking about those Xeon tanks, yeah, they weren't double barrel main battle tanks like this one I'm building. As far as I remember, they were single barrel and they looked completely different. There was Xeon tanks and EFSF tanks. Yeah, in the series. That's what I thought. Most of them were. Gotcha. I definitely saw a Xeon tank, but thought the Fetty ones were in there too. Yeah, both they were. Both sides had tanks. Because I remember the like this tank here, the main battle tanks, they were shooting at the Zaku's. So they were on the Fetty side. But Xeon had their own. They looked completely different. They look kind of boring, actually. All right. Let me check my soldering iron here. Certainly sounds like it's hot enough on the old sponge. Yep. I've got good solder. Okay, so now I've got to get set up here real quick for this battery holder. So this has two I'm going to take a short piece of shrink tubing. I always forget to do this part on this because there's no way to do this after the wires are soldered on. So I'm going to take a short piece of this tubing. I'm going to put it on each wire there. That way, when I'm done soldering the battery holder on, I can bring that tubing up and protect my solder joints. So I'm going to do that first. So I just take this and slide it over the wire and let it fall. Now I've got to wrap this around those little leads. Actually, I'm going to take and just create another small hook, just like I did before. I need my helping hands for this. This may or may not work. I'm going to miss a bunch of comments here while I'm talking about this. So You're gonna have to watch it after the live stream. Yeah. Just binge the whole thing. Xeon tanks were single barrel. That's what I thought. They were pop flies off. Yeah, that's right. They were single barrel. That's what I thought too. Double barrel tanks were EFSF. Xeon tanks are separated. The turret could fly off. That's right. Also the Zaku tanks. Right. Yeah, that's right. They had the same body, the same tracks, and everything on the Zaku tank. Now the Xeon tanks have funny names. I'm getting old and forgetting shit. Yeah, that's no big deal. Xeon tanks were called. Oh, that's a good one. The Xeon tanks were called Magella attacks, huh? Interesting. Now the Zaku tank is my future agenda to build or perhaps make a Zaku tank using old school Zaku. That'd be cool. Kind of a nice kit bash. But don't they make a Zaku tank already? I thought. There you go, George. All right, let's get this battery holder in place. So I have 2 positive leads. I only need to grab 1, but I'm going to just use my helping hands here to kind of hold this in place while I bring this lead up. Okay, so now I'm going to try put this in a way that's, there we go. All right. So let me grab my solder here. The solder flows pretty easily. There we go. Got a little much. Make sure. I think I'm going to hit it again because I think it got on there but didn't fully coat the wire. I want to make sure I get a good amount on there. There we go. That's better. All right. Perfect. Then I'll slide that shrink tubing up, and then I can just heat that up right on there, and it'll be nice and protected. So one more wire here. I got my. I'm gonna make another hook out of this. This is the ground side. This will go on that single terminal on the bottom. Come on. I thought I had it, but I guess I don't. There we go. Whoops. As long as my wire stays there. And it fell off. Need to turn it. All right. All right, I've got my wire ready to go. I'm just going to hit this with some solder. What I miss? They had the very old, what am I missing? Oh my gosh, you guys are talking up a storm. Now the Zaku tank is my future. I saw that they have the very old 144 Zaku tank. Oh, okay. So it's pretty old. Yeah, it would be nice to see an updated version of that. That'd be kind of cool. But I do have the STL file. Module attack bottom, which, oh, okay, that'd be cool. Because then, yeah, then you can make it very, very accurate if you have a file for it. To get it done, is the MG Sniper. I think MG Zeta Gundam is next. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so we're going to do this last solder here. I'm sorry if I get in the way. Uh-oh, I'm bumping my helping hands here. I'm just going to bring this around to the other side so I can Get the solder where it needs to be. I think I got it. It's always a little bit tedious sometimes trying to get this. It's not the best. Let's see if I could straighten that out. Yowza. I touched the end of my thumb. That was pretty hot. All right. I think we're good. Let me shut this off. Now, for the final test, before I do the shrink tubing, I'm just going to plug this battery in. Yep, and I've got a light. So I know my solders are all good. Now I'm going to take these little pieces of shrink tubing. I'm going to bring those up and cover up my solders here. There's one. There's the other. I'll just very quickly do that. One for the ground side. Here we go. All right, those out of the way. Okay, so now this, to flip this over, this will have enough slack to kind of be hanging out of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this down in there. I'm going to put these two halves together briefly. These are a little bit tight to get to fit. Once you get them to line up, there's some little like L brackets that are, it even says in the booklet, like you have to watch when you're assembling this because it's very, very precise fit. You have to get it just right, otherwise you'll damage them as you're trying to get those two halves to come together. Okay, so now I'm gonna get my wire. So now you can see there's the battery holder. So now when I'm taking this or whatever to shows or whatever, all I got to do is reach in, pop my battery in, pop it back down, and now we've got headlights. All right, now we'll finish this off real quick. I've got all the wheels and stuff on the paint. They're drying. I've did them in primer. I've got to go back do the wheels now. I painted the black portion of them, the rubber, and I'm going to also do each one of these struts in a different color. I'll probably end up hand painting those along each side. That's why I didn't paint those right away. Along with the suspension work, I think the suspension arms are going to be in that darker gray too. So now this should fit right over. Supposed to, I might have to do a little bit of modification. Yep, I think I've got, when I first cut these openings, I cut them, I had the fibers in there, but I didn't fully have them engaged, so I have to cut a little bit different opening. There we go. Now it's going to fit right in there. Okay, so that goes on like that. Let's see if I got to do the same for this side. I think I'm going to have to. Yeah. Now that these fibers are tight, this one is still trying to come forward. There we go. Push that back. All right. So now, if I put this on, oops, I got to cut off a little more. And that's just to make room for the, when this fender goes on. I may put a little, I may secure, build something inside here to kind of secure that battery so it's not just flopping around loose. Because every time I turn this thing, it just wants to go everywhere. So I might just take, there's some little, you can see those supports going across. I may put some styrene in there just to kind of shove that in and hold it in place. Now I've got the side skirts here. So these, let's get this in place. Go on like that. Other side. Whoop, what was that? Uh-oh, I lost one of these. These aren't glued on yet because I was painting these little steps. I wanted to make sure they were shaded properly, so I installed them even though they're not glued on. So I'll make sure I don't lose them. Okay, then this goes on this side. Like so. All right, so back here, the exhaust, those are going to be a different color. They're going to be like a burnt iron. So now you can kind of see the way this is coming together. There's a couple of pieces here that aren't on, like these covers. They go in place here on either side. There's a little like engine part underneath. So those go in there. But yeah, I like this color scheme so far. And I use the black primer as a pre-shade. So I just went over it. But then again, like I said, it's going to take some time, but I'm going to mask off every single one of these little tiny non-slip panels and then spray those with that little bit darker gray color. And then I've also got to, I'm not sure I'm going to paint the seat. I was going to paint the commander seat, which goes on here because it sticks out of the top of the turret. But I'm not sure. I might just leave it black because I think the guy's going to fill up this hole. Especially there's a couple more pieces that go on here that make that hole even smaller because the hatch and everything is there. So I doubt you're really going to see that seat. So I may just leave it black or paint it like a simple gray color, just something that's down there, but I'm not worried about the detail of it because like I said, the commander is going to be kind of hanging out. But I had to do the interior of this first before I put these two pieces together, and then I can finish priming the whole thing and painting it. But I've got to do the stowage area, all the photo etch there. There's also some kind of a sensor dome that goes on here, has a clear piece inside of it. So I've got to figure out how to paint that without screwing that up. And then I've got another piece that goes on the top of here. So there's several little details, especially the turret. There's a lot of little brackets and things I still have to glue on this. So that's why I didn't prime the whole thing. I just left, I did part of it because I was going to paint the interior. And then I also wanted to paint like around this area here because there's a big glass piece, this circular glass piece has to go in from the underside. So each one of those lenses will have to be painted first. So that way I can install this from underneath. Once I, glue this all together and paint everything without worried about masking these lenses off, then I can just bring this piece in and pop it into place when I'm done. That was the plan with that. So I've also got the turrets, the actual barrels are over there on the paint booth. So this will go on like so. These side skirts, until they get glued, they're really not, there's very little to hold them on. It's these little tiny hinges that kind of hold them in place. So you have to kind of be careful when you're handling it. It's still got all the suspension, all the wheels and everything that I got to paint. That's going to take some time. We got professional work. Had that clamp tool you got there. You talking about the helping hands, this guy? Yeah, they have it without the magnifier. I don't know why I got it with the magnifier because I really very rarely ever use the magnifier. I think when I first started doing LED work and I was trying to solder like 1.6 millimeter surface mount LEDs, yeah, I was needing the magnification to see what I was doing because those LEDs are. But now that I've gotten better at it, I don't really need the magnification as much. But so far, so good, though. I think I like the way this looks. And I think the weathering will certainly help. And to George's point earlier, I know, what is it, Gundanium? It doesn't rust, but didn't they just make the Gundams out of that? I didn't think they made the tanks out of it. Maybe they did. I think the tanks are still going to get crusty. But that's another story for another day. All right, so what can we do for the rest of the show tonight? So I'm going to make sure my lights are still on. I forgot the battery's still plugged in. So now that I've got the fenders on there, you can kind of see, whoops, yeah, those pieces fall right out the top. Let's take them off. Now you can see how those headlights are going to look. I think they look really good. Giovanni's out, huh? Last delivery's done. Now I have to 2-hour drive back. Oh, lovely. You got a long day still ahead of you. Well, stay safe, bud. Definitely stay safe. All right. So, yeah, we've got that to do. The LEDs, the fiber optics are in. This one keeps, this one's still sticking up. There we go. I think I need to trim off a little more of that. I think this is still kind of getting in the way. I'm just kind of crudely cutting this. It's not a big deal, but I'm just trying to get these. Get this fender out of the way of those fibers as these sit on here. See, these are just going to fall off in my hands. That's why I didn't have them on there in the first place. Yeah, that's better. And I guess once everything's glued down. These are also not glued on yet. I was using those for painting. There we go. I think we're good to go. I might have to modify this one just a little bit more. And I may have to, well, no, because the side skirt, I just noticed there is some bleed through on the side here, but the skirt will cover that up. We won't even see that with the side skirts on. So I'm not worried about that. And it doesn't look like, well, there's a little bit here, but I think once the pilot's in there, or the pilot's in the seat, you won't be able to see that, because where those fibers come in, they're kind of taking that U-turn right there, but he's going to fill up that area there. If I need to, I can just put some gaffer tape over it just to block out that section, but it's really not going to be too big a deal there. So far, so good. I had to repair one of these pegs that I broke earlier when I was snapping it together. I went to kind of push this top down, and I pushed on the wheel, and it just popped one of those pegs off. So I went ahead and fixed that. That is also glued, so that should be fine once I go back together. And like I said, the suspension work, or the suspension arms, are going to be in that darker gray. So I want to give some nice contrast through the tracks here. You'll be able to see that. Several Tamiya US. Okay, I'm going to have to put this one up on screen here in a large. Several Tamiya U.S. Force infantry, along with broken Zaku head, would turn it into a superb diorama. Yeah, just how much time do I want to spend on it? I guess I'm not worried about that, because I'm not going to be able to finish this for IPMS. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to be able to go this year, because I have to work and I don't have any PTO. So I could spend more time on this, but I know Giovanni's waiting for me to start his commission. Macross commission he wants me to do for him. But like I said, I don't take commissions unless, there's no deadline, because I'm working on this project. So I'll finish this project and then I'll work on that one when I'm done. Or I could stop this and work on it. We'll see. If this gets too involved, I start getting really elaborate with it, then maybe I'll shelf it and do his commission first and then come back to it. But I think I've got some pretty good momentum going here, so I want to keep moving on it. Stay safe. Good night. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. We're almost there ourselves, guys. It's almost time to wrap this show up. Guess before we go, I should go down the list here. We started with Giovanni was in first, then Julius, and then Handren. Mr. Osaki Art, that's Handren. Then we had Julius again. And Julius, everybody all the same until we get to, we got Nick, and then George, or Angel popped in after Nick. And then George came in at the end there. But I don't think there was anybody else in the chat tonight. Looks like that might be it. Oh, what tape? I missed that. Sorry about that. I didn't answer you. This is called, sorry about that, Hendren. This is gaffer tape, or gaff tape. It's GAFF. It's like a really good fabric tape. It's really sticky. I use it for I wrap it backwards on some of my paint skewers. So if I've got a part that I can't use a clip for, I can stick it on there, and it works really well for that. But if you look, it just says Gaff, Pro Gaff, and it's like a fabric. It tears like a fabric, but it sticks way better than like a duct tape. It sticks to itself pretty good. So what I was talking about was, let me just grab one of these sticks here. Let's see here if I got one that's got enough tape left on it. This one might have it. So here's an example. I had a few parts on this that were too small or you weren't able to grab. So once you use up one layer of it, you can take this. What I did is I wrapped it backwards on itself. So once you use up a layer, you unroll it like this. Okay, and then just tear that off, and now you've got a fresh, sticky tape that you can take apart. Say for instance like this. Say for instance I needed to paint this, but I couldn't put it on a skewer. I can just stick it to the side of it, do my airbrushing, and then take it right off. But it works well for really small pieces that you can't hold on to, especially when I do some of the lenses and stuff that I want different colors out, clear stuff or whatever, you can stick on here some of the smaller parts and then use it to airbrush. In fact, that's what I did with all these little shelves, these little steps right here. These are actually a separate piece. There's no place to really hold this with a skewer. So I actually stuck it to the back of a piece of tape. And then I could paint the front of it. I did the primer and then I put them on here for doing the actual color. Sorry, I didn't mean to miss that comment, but there were so many of them coming in, I was probably looking down. So as we go down here, everybody's that braided 32. You're talking about the wiring. Yep. Keep on going. Okay, yeah, nobody else in. All the same. All the way down. So where are we at? Sounds like great tape to hold alligator clips into sticks. Yeah, that you could probably do that. I have done the same where I've had a piece that I grabbed a hold of, like the LED. Once you wrap it, you can fully. So let me take this back off. I'm going to take the battery back out just to save the battery. And now we'll have to very carefully try to separate this. Sounded worse than it was. So, yeah, see, what I may do is take another small strip and go around this one time, but I don't think I can do much about it. It's not, there's no bleed through really. The only place you can really see it is right here when you're in the cockpit. You can see this, where these curve around right here, which is fine. It's not going to be a huge deal. I think we're looking pretty good there so far. This back portion is already glued in place. That's not going anywhere. Got some hot glue here. Just hot glue hairs. That's it. Usually use double-sided tape. That'll work too. I mean, I just, for lack of having something else, I like the gaff tape because it's good for this kind of stuff too, especially for blacking out LEDs. I want to make sure that all the light is focused. I don't want any, light bleeding through the side of the tube. I want it to go, and light up the fiber optics. So it's good for that. And like I said, it's super sticky too. So it works really, really well for what it's designed for. We used to use it at the dealerships when we were installing low jacks. We had to tape, you had to stick the unit down, and then you had to tape like the wiring up a certain way, and it had to be, they were really strict about how you install. You actually send photographs to Gorilla tape. Gorilla double-sided tape is great. Yeah, that's true. I could do the same like you're saying for these wires. I could just put a small piece of tape on there. Hot glue works too. But yeah, I could easily use a small little piece. And of course, because it tears so easily, you can pull a strip off and then make smaller pieces with it too. It's super easy to use. Just like a strip, take a little piece like that. Just break it down. It's multi-use, but like I said, at the dealerships we used to use it for that, for taping down the zipping in and taping down some of the wires for the low jack stuff. Hey Brian popped in. How you doing, Brian? Last minute, good to have you. Fresh kneaded eraser on a skewer, or grabbed it with an LED. What is it? What are you saying? Oh, we're talking about like sticky stuff. A fresh kneaded eraser on a skewer, or grabbed it in an alligator clip to hold my little shit parts. Right. Exactly. So going up here to the chaos that is my bench. It's like I start with a clean area, and then it just starts getting closer and closer and closer as everything. So I still got to do, I got some of the photo etch screening on here. Let me just go back to the close-up. So I got some of the photo etch installed on some of these pieces, but I put that aside when I was doing most of the paint because I was trying to get this portion of it at least painted so I could do, tonight's show with all the fiber installs. So that's why I stopped working on the photo etch for that point. Doesn't leave residue. Doesn't leave residue. No residue. All right, boys and girls, let's wrap this up. So thanks for joining in, everybody. Let me go back up here. We'll take off these glasses and wrap this up. All right, so we just finished part 4. I got all the fiber optics in, and we're ready to start putting some of these pieces, the larger pieces together. Now that the wiring's in and the fiber optics are in, I don't think there's anything else I need to do inside except maybe secure that battery to the bottom, maybe put a couple pieces of plastic strips, something in there to kind of wedge it just so it's not flopping around loose like that. But now I can glue the fenders on. I'm going to use either some blue tack or something to put over each one of those lights so those don't get any paint on them through the rest of the process. And then At the last minute, we'll take those off and we'll put these clear lenses on. There's four clear lenses for each one of those lights. And then there's also the cockpit and the turret. Those lights have also got to be painted backlit and everything. I got some paints coming from Canada. They got a little bit delayed because of the tariffs, but no big deal. They're sending out U.S. orders. I just got my tracking number today, so hopefully I'll have all my supplies by next week. We'll see. Brian says, everyone go listen to Mike's first guest appearance on Built Sideways. Yes, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much again, Brian, for having me on the show. I really miss hanging out with the boys. You know, when we did those, we were doing a lot of mechanism builds and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. And I do deeply cherish those moments, and I miss that a lot. So anyway, for everybody else, thank you so much. Yes, check out the podcast. It was a lot of fun. I think it was season 5, episode 4, if I'm not mistaken, where you listen to your podcast. Find it on Spotify. Actually, is probably the best place to check it out. And yeah. So be good humans. Thanks again for everybody. Hit that like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Put a comment in the comments. It helps the algorithm out, especially on YouTube, because Facebook is now changing their video storage policies, and everything that is 30 days or over 30 days old will now be deleted. So if you want to see all the past videos I've done 103 now, I think. This is number 103. You'll have to come to YouTube to see all that, because all the Facebook stuff I think is going to go away, which is unfortunate, but whatever. It is what it is. StreamYard still holds all my stuff too, so I've got it there. But if you guys want to check out the YouTube, that's probably the best place to do it. I would that. What is Brian saying? I didn't have a steady 5. Oh yeah, 5 a.m. wake up, right? Oh, Brian, bring back your live stream. Yeah, no, that would be true. To me, enamel paints, yes, you can buy them from. What is that? Sunward Hobbies out of Canada. Sunward Hobbies. It takes a little bit longer to get them because obviously it's got to come across the border. But you can buy Tamiya enamels, and they look like this. They come in small little bottles, but they are way better than the Testors crap that you're used to using in your old days. I've got a few colors here, but I just wanted to get some chrome silver. You can do reverse washes with them, all that kind of stuff. That's why I like using them, because you can take them off with enamel thinner just as easy, just like doing a panel line accent color or something like that. Great price. Yes, they are. Yeah, not a bad price at all. They're like $2-3 a bottle. And again, I just bought the blue because I was doing a little Warhammer mini, and I needed to do a reverse wash on that, so I bought those for that. So I've got some metallics, a few metallics, similar stuff that I used to have when I had Tamiya acrylics, and all the same colors. I'm getting some of those primary colors for doing those things, and doing the you can do a filter fade with enamel paints. If you have a few colors, you can really muddy up a kit. That was one of the first things I did with those Zaku's, the real great kits in my old Officer Down diorama. I did filter fades on that, and it was just like putting dots of different colors on and then thinning them all out and just blending them all together with using lighter fluid or enamel thinner. And then it also, it's a way of weathering a kit, making it look dirty and grimy. So anyway, thanks again, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate you as always, each and every week. So let's head on out here. Great hobby store. Yeah, not missing anything. Don't want to miss anything at the last minute. Steady. Thanks, George, for letting me know about that place. Yeah, no worries, guys. All right, you guys. Talk to you soon. See you next time.